Morning, church. Pastor Brandon here. It's Friday, and we're getting through the story of Jonah. Today, I'm going to read a little bit more, so I'm going to jump right in. We're going to backtrack just a little bit and read from verse 4 all the way down through verse 10. We'll get a little bit more of the story today. So then the Lord sent a great wind on the sea, and such a violent storm arose that the ship threatened to break up. All the sailors were afraid, and each cried out to his own God, and they threw the cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. But Jonah had gone below deck, where he lay down and fell into a deep sleep. Now the captain went to him and said, "How can you sleep? Get up and call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us so that we may not perish." Then the sailors said to each other, "Let's cast lots to find out who is responsible for this calamity." They cast the lots, and the lot fell on Jonah. I'm going to pause there. Now just picture, these guys are all like polytheistic people. They all follow different gods. Casting lots wasn't something that was odd back then. They would have done this just to figure out which way to go or what to do or what decision to make. Very common in that era. But just imagine Jonah, he knows all this, how afraid he might start feeling like, oh no, they're going to cast lots. It's going to land on me because God's doing all this and Jonah knows it. So picking up in verse 8. So they asked him, "Tell us who is responsible," or they cast lots and the lots fell on Jonah. So they asked him, "Tell us who is responsible for making all this trouble for us? What kind of work do you do? Where do you come from? What is your country? From what people are you?" So Jonah had given them some information, and he told them, you're going to find out here really quick, that he told them that he was kind of running from God, but he didn't tell them everything. And so these guys are now asking the questions, or maybe he told the captain, but the rest of these guys didn't know. So he answered them, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." This terrified them, and they asked, "What have you done?" They knew he was running away from the Lord because he had already told them. Now, when he says, "I am a Hebrew," the whole thing changes. Why is that important? Saying "I am a Hebrew" in this time, because there was a polytheistic world, but everybody knew, or not everybody, but most of the people in that region knew of the Israelites. And then they knew that they worshiped a different God. And there had been stories told of this God, and these people were familiar with him. Even if they didn't follow that God, they knew of him. And so when Jonah says, "I am a Hebrew," it was like us today saying, "I am a Christian." And then people's expectations and their thoughts about us automatically shift. And if you've ever been in a situation where things are going on and they find out that you're a Christian, maybe people look at you sideways and they're questioning why you're in the situation you're in, or what's going on, or are you the reason that this is going on, or whatever. I don't really know, but it's very similar to what Jonah is experiencing. Now Jonah knows that this is all going on because of him. But I want you to see their response in verse 10. This terrified them. You see, the God of the Hebrews was well known. And the stories of what happened with Moses and all that would have been told already to some of these people, and they would have known the God of the Hebrews is a powerful God that extends beyond the borders. And that goes all the way back to Abraham, when God called Abraham out as the first Hebrew, and he said, "I will be with you in the land of Canaan." So Abraham is called out of his land, and again, gods were regional. Back in this time, people thought that their gods weren't allowed outside of their borders because they were gods that men created. And yet the God of Abraham was the God who created everything. And so when God promised Abraham that "I will be with you in another region," that became a huge deal. That means that Abraham's God, the Hebrew God, was more powerful than all the other regional gods. So when you read Jonah, there's a lot of stuff you got to kind of dig into, but like us today, we need to understand that we worship a God who is bigger than our fears, bigger than what we're going through. So as we kind of walk through this pandemic, we can't put our heads in the sand. We can't go sleep in the bottom of the boat. We got to understand that God's called us to represent him. And this whole thing is God teaching Jonah that you can run from me, but you're still going to represent me. You're still going to bring the truth of who I am to whomever you're with. And in this case, it's the sailors on the boat, and that's where Matt's going to pick up on Monday. Can't wait to see what he says.